evening, Inkwell. How's it going on this hopefully fine Monday? Today I've been wanting to just get back to doing some oil painting. I'm really trying not to just do like random, just kind of one-off pieces. I want something that has a little more context. So still working within, some worlds that I'm kicking around in my head. I thought, well, maybe I'll tackle some kind of more narrative sort of vignettes. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, and one of the ways that I like to use Procreate is to basically work out essentially studies for paintings, right? Especially if it's the kind of stuff where I'm probably not going to find reference for it anywhere. And like I'm capable of essentially creating my own reference. It takes time, but I can do it. And then hopefully I'll end up with a real painting at the end of all of it. So that's essentially what I'm trying to figure out here. Back in the day, in the golden age of illustration, which these days, I guess now it's like 100 years ago. Just crazy to think about. But they would do a lot of these really cool like vignette paintings, right? Where you would have this scene, but it wasn't like the entire canvas was painted, right? And it was probably because it was gonna be fitting, like they were gonna place text in like the empty areas, right? But just as paintings, I love the look of them. So I'm kind of thinking along those lines, so this is meant for maybe a 16 by 20 inch canvas. It may not end up being quite that large, but same ratio regardless. So, my idea is that there would be some, like the figures will be painted, a little bit of the environment that they're like kind of interacting with, which my idea is essentially like if you had a tavern with a sort of indoor-outdoor area, right? So you have your bar or whatever, and maybe there's a window because back in the Middle Ages and stuff, they would have these not such large windows. Typically they were much smaller, just enough to hand a drink through. But I'm thinking of something a little bit larger than what they typically had back then, since fantasy world. Hey. Really? Sometimes my cat likes to get my attention by clawing on things she knows she's not supposed to. Usually it's my chair. but I'm sitting in that, so instead it's a couch cushion. Hey Willie, what's up? How you doing, man? Did that do? Okay. So within this particular concept or story moment, let's say, it says I have these, what I'm currently just referring to as sea elves. They're elves. They spend much of their time on the open ocean in their ships. They're superior sailors. But these two happen to be on land right now. There will be a second one. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. And I want them both kind of like looking at something that's, you know, somewhere off canvas, essentially. And that's one of the easier ways to like create a sense of narrative, right? You can either have an interaction between the two characters, or you can have them essentially interact with something off canvas, which is nice because it alludes to a bigger world, right? So that's, I don't know, that's always kind of a fun thing to play with, I think. And I had done a painting of this guy before, an actual oil painting, but I don't actually like how it turned out. There were some things that I was kind of still trying to figure out, both in terms of the painting style as well as digitally. You know, I didn't know exactly what I was going for digitally, and I think the reference that I had painted up was a little too loose to really use as reference. So, but this is going to be a little tricky because these elves, the men and women, essentially dress the same, right? So it's not like oh, we gotta cover up everything kind of a culture. So if I actually want to develop this on stream, I have to kind of keep that in mind and say, all right, well, we got to figure out some strategic censorship, which is kind of annoying. I would ideally like for her to be kind of, you know, looking off to the right, except that my idea was that they were talking and then there's something going on that catches their attention. So I don't actually know if I could pull that off without, you know, showing too much of her. You might be able to figure out something. And I hate having to do that, but since, you know, Twitch can't be bothered to figure out figure out a better stance on artistic nudity. Artistic nudity meaning just nudity in art that is non-sexual. Right? Like, this should be a very innocuous scene, but I still can't show nothing. So I don't know if this would work, or if I should turn her around the other way, which might work better. I just like being able to see more of her face, but from a narrative standpoint, maybe it doesn't really matter. Because I think sometimes also when you have the people posed a little too perfectly, right? It can sometimes take away from the narrative a little bit. So I feel like we can justify it by basically just saying she turned around the other way from a narrative perspective, right? It's not like she has a camera to play to. It's not Hollywood. And, there's a bit of a Middle Eastern vibe to their clothing and stuff, so and their features. Clothing and features are both a bit. I just feel like if she is talking and we may have to do not quite so profile. It gets so subtle at times, but we'll figure it out. I don't mind. I don't mind a little subtlety. Too far. Too. We deal with this kind of annoying challenge doing movie posters all the time, right? Where they're like, they want their back to the camera, but then they still want to get some likeness on the actors. It's just like, and there's like, sometimes they're like, oh, just 3/4 from the back is fine, but it's just like, there's like 2 poses you can give someone maybe where you get that kind of like conveniently still seeing their face. I feel like she'll have to turn too much. So sometimes you just have to kind of sketch around to see what kind of natural pose you might be able to find. And right now it's feeling, like obviously she's turned, so it's not like a totally relaxed pose, but not feeling it. Not feeling it. And this is the annoying part of just trying to figure things out. I still like having her we might also be able to make it so that he's not looking quite so like, profile. Like he could be looking a little more 3/4 toward camera. And then we wouldn't have to force her turn as much, potentially. Forcing the pencil in what way? Like the drawing just isn't feeling natural today, or? Because that happens. You just gotta usually just kind of like muscle through and keep at it. Yeah, a lot of times, for me at least, that is mostly just when I need to like really warm up, I do like that, so let's try, and some days it just takes longer to warm up than others. Yeah, I mean, we always have to kind of remember that, drawing is a physical activity, like, sports. And all that stuff, it takes time. Gotta warm up, gotta limber up our hands and our brains, get them working together, Mark Hilmy, no, I don't. I don't really think in systems. I tend to, I don't know. I think just over the years, I've kind of, just garnered my own sort of understanding for proportions, and so what I'll tend to do is I'll just kind of throw stuff down that feels good to me, and then sort of tweak it as I go to get more specific, right? Because I don't want everything to just feel the same, but if you have kind of shapes and proportions that you're very familiar with, sometimes you can start there and then just push and pull, right, to start to make them feel maybe a little more unique. So that tends to be more my methodology. If any of my methods are based on any actual systems, I'm not aware of it. I did go to a couple different art schools, and so they didn't necessarily talk about exactly what system they were working from. And I never actually studied like Loomis or Villepeu so much that I got into their systems. It's more like I love Loomis's art. Was never a big Villepeu fan, to be honest. Even when I was younger, there was something about his shapes that kind of bugged me. Even though I know he did a lot for teaching in art. Head got too big. I kind of like it tilted a little bit more. Sometimes I do wonder though if like, if I had found, some of those artists when I was younger, like, would that have made a difference? And I don't know. I think when I was younger, I wasn't really aware of systems and methodologies in that regard. I always was just kind of drawing out of my head and then studying things around me, like the world around me and people, and trying to get a better understanding of some kind of like naturalistic posing and stuff. So I don't know, that was always just kind of my, I feel like we should pose her other arm first. That was always sort of my focus for whatever reason, even like pretty young, like junior high and stuff. I I don't know, I got really fascinated with like more naturalistic posing, and you know, would like, yeah, I would do some actiony stuff, but I think there were a couple times when I was younger that I managed to just sort of like hit on something that felt very believable, you know, and that just really caught my interest. And I've sort of, I don't know, always liked doing that kind of stuff ever since. And there's something for me about, like, I don't know, in these fantasy worlds and stuff, like, having people doing more everyday stuff, you know, not just, like, slaying dragons and shit. You know, I think there's something to the more everyday aspect that can sort of bring it to life a little bit more. The action-y stuff is fun sometimes too, but I don't enjoy it as much. So I'm trying to think of how she might be. Hey, thanks for the follow, Wilker Souza Art. Trying to think if she had her arm like up on her right arm up on the bar, wondering if there's a natural way that she would be. I don't know. Don't know. I feel like this arm would, if she had both hands there. And of course, this is the benefit of digital, where you can really just sketch and erase the stuff you don't like, keep the stuff you do like, and not worry about like totally chewing up the paper with all the erasing. That being said, I do sometimes think better traditionally than I do digitally. She was starting to look like she would be taller than him proportionally, which I don't really want. I feel like that would have to be too far back, maybe. whenever you're doing something like this, playing with the idea that, hey, these people are from a different culture or whatever, one of the things to be careful of, mindful of, and it's this way regardless of whether you're illustrating or writing. You don't want the culture to be so simplistic. Thank you, Wilker. Get those shoulder stretches in. You don't want the culture to get so simplistic that it's like, oh, this entire culture, everyone wears the same thing, Now you could have a uniform kind of a thing, like let's say if they're part of some kind of, more organized, kind of faction, whether it's military or something else, right? So there could be a uniform involved, or you can have something that's more like typical clothing that they would wear in this case when they're sailing or doing whatever, So it's something to be mindful of, and it's a good idea to not oversimplify. We're gonna have to, for that posture, we really would need to not quite turn her shoulder so much, which could cause a problem with stuff getting revealed. And it's not always enough to be like, oh, well, they can have different color outfits, but still the same outfit, Now there is some, like the sash that they wear across, that is kind of like something that they do wear as a cultural thing to show their station, Yeah. Her chest would get revealed that way. Damn it. I should have thought this through a bit more. But I can also go back to my original idea, which was them interacting. So they don't have to be looking off, and then I could still give a natural body position. Or, for the purposes of Twitch, we can just say they wear some kind of a top. The only problem is if I decide I want to do the oil painting on stream, well, I can't. I may not be able to. We'll see. Or I'd have to figure out a way to censor it. Which I could do. I could do the drawing on the panel and just set it up and easily just put a black bar. But for now, we can pretend that she's actually wearing some kind of a top, even though she's not actually wearing any kind of a top, because neither is he. This is always a tricky kind of thing when you have the arm going back and then coming right back toward us. Thinking about foreshortening. Yeah, that would be going like straight back. I don't even know if we'd see the upper arm, and hardly even any of the shoulder. One of the ways that I can at least vary their jewelry that they wear, right? The adornments. I can vary the wrap that they have, and then of course pattern, color. And I'll probably need to do a bit more research in terms of the wraps that they have on their heads, you know, because there are tons of different ways that they could do that too. So, and I could make that where, you know, these kind of turban kinds of things could be like the style of wrap that they have. Could be like a family thing, or I don't know what region they come from, you know, within their homeland. So I'm trying to think of, I want her to have, so his drink, whatever it is, I don't know yet. Some kind of ambrosia, I'm sure. But probably I'm thinking more solid, like clay kind of mugs, earthenware. And she's gonna be holding hers. So just have to think about how. I think. I kind of like her holding it like a wine glass. But I'll probably make these things look kind of shitty and not so perfect, you know, because it would have been handmade and probably not like super nice unless they're at a really nice tavern, which I don't think they are. But whatever, we're not getting that far yet. There's a certain point here where the sketch just starts getting super messy and I don't like it and I just want to like clean it up. But I feel like, oh, I should just take the time to figure out a couple more things and then clean it up a bit. So I feel like he needs to be... I have that line there, but whatever, I don't need it. I think he should be a little bigger. Whoops. That's what I get for... Sometimes I don't even know why I bother with layers at this stage. Like... just end up going out the door or causing more problems than it's worth. But that's okay. It does make it a little easier to, you know, move things around and figure stuff out. So let's... and I know, like, so they're going to be outside, which of course will affect the lighting on them quite a bit. for that, I just want to... I know this bar is like jutting out from the wall, right? I think I'll have the light coming from the kind of upper right. I don't really need to do this right now, but it does help me like start to get a sense of the value grouping and composition. If we would really see... Yeah, that part's definitely gonna have to get worked out. The hard part is with the neck wrap and the sash, it covers up a bit of the anatomy that would help to clarify what her actual pose is. So I'll have to kind of keep that in mind. And decide what I want to keep and what I might want to change. Because that's gonna look really weird otherwise. That's not gonna work. Not gonna work. Why do I do this to myself? I do like that hand being there, but it's this one. Well, we could go the other way and not have it kicked back and seem like a natural way to lean on something. Is the problem. I think this one needs to be closer to her body, for one. Because we'll tend to sort of brace against things, right? Lean and brace and whatever sort of like allows us to expel the least amount of energy when we're at rest. really, really wanted her to be holding the cup with her right hand for some reason. I don't know why. I think we're just gonna have to forego that and put it in her left hand, which is fine. Then we can just have her right hand kind of hanging casually, which feels a lot more natural, which is what we've been struggling for this whole time. Problem solved-ish. What are you gonna do? Proportions are bugging me. I'm not entirely sure why, but it's a little better. All right. Let's start cleaning, doing some cleanup. Actually, wait. Let's get our values in here a little bit. And inside, in that window, by the way, we're gonna catch a bit of a glimpse of like inside this tavern. But that stuff I think will end up being very kind of indicated, very painterly. I don't want to like detail it all out, so I'm not too worried about that in this stage. Nikki, how's it going? What is good? I don't know. Life is good right now. I can't complain. You know, a little hectic. Work's been a little nuts. Worked, you know, straight through a couple weekends there, but oh well. Happens sometimes. Alright, let's start doing some cleanup here. So yeah, and just like wanting to do this as essentially a study for what will hopefully be an actual oil painting. Oh, right on. Hey, guitar's a good thing. That shit's fun. Let's see here. And I have found that it's always good to give yourself more information. And this is the weird part, and this is something that I actually had to kind of wrap my head around with basically creating my own reference, right, digitally. So normally, if you're working, say, from photo reference, oh yes, it is physically painful learning guitar as a beginner, man. Your fingers, just those calluses need to build up. Yeah. But, so if you're working from like photo reference for an oil painting or whatever, obviously the photo is going to be probably more detailed. Or if you're working from life, it's going to be way the hell more detailed than your painting, right? And that's the whole thing with painting, is it's about editing, right? So that's something I had to kind of wrap my head around, you know, like the idea of doing a digital painting that I can do an oil painting from, but then I need to make the digital painting detailed enough that I can edit in the oil painting and not have it just feel like a half-assed sketch or something. So, or at least give myself the option, right? Whether I want to edit out information or not. But what you don't want to do is create reference that is simpler than your plans for the final painting, right? Because that's going to get you into trouble. At least it's gotten me into trouble many times. So, but at the same time, the nice thing is that if you run into something in the final painting where you're like, oh damn, that I need to figure this out, you can always go back to your digital piece and flesh it out more, right? And figure it out. Our Painted Lives. That sounds really familiar. What was that? Is that a documentary or something? I don't think I've seen it, but I know I've heard of it. I don't really know what context they're talking about when they say that. I suppose it's true. Sometimes people do get a little more esoteric than they need to when they're talking about this stuff, but I'll have to look at it. I know I've seen it. I just don't remember what it was that I saw. One of the fun things I think with digital now is that because you can get, with the power of the brush engines that the different apps have, you can get a pretty traditional look, right? I mean, anyone who really knows what they're looking at won't be fooled, but you can get something that has a bit of that feeling, at least, in a digital sense. I don't think you can ever really replace like actual paint. I mean, I'm sure they'll keep trying to figure out how, but what's nice is that you can actually like get some ideas for techniques and marks, right? Brush marks, mark making. Not at this stage, because I'm purely drawing here, but once I do start kind of painting it, I'll be thinking a lot about how I would actually approach it, but also using this mostly for figuring out color palette, right? And obviously design details, but oh yeah, I see. No, that makes sense, and it shouldn't be 1-to-1, to the reference, one for one. And I think that's one of the things that I love about kind of doing something like this, where I am kind of creating my own reference, right? Then I don't have to worry about that really. Granted, it's tricky, and it's not to say that, if I had a photo to work from, it wouldn't be any better than this. You know what I mean? Obviously, it'd be great if I had a photo of sea elves to work from, but, it's just like, I'll reference stuff. I'll probably look for faces at some point. And once I kind of flesh out some of this stuff, I'll look for whether it's a brick, facade or stucco or wood. I don't know. I'm not sure yet what kind of facade that they're in front of. You know, like I'll look for reference to get ideas on how to paint that stuff. But yeah, I would never, even if I did have like, say, a direct photo that I shot for reference, I still wouldn't want it to be one for one, right? We're always editing, ideally. We should always be editing as artists, as illustrators. Like for me, I never want to feel like, oh, there's a photo out there that looks exactly like what I just drew or painted, you know. Unless I'm intentionally like just doing something as like practice, you know, from a photo. In which case, I don't hide that. I say, this is from a photo. But I'm sure we've all seen those artists that try and hide their source. And then the ignorant ones that use something that's just too well known, but they don't realize that it's well known. And then we see it and we're like, oh yeah, we've all drawn from that photo before. And some of this stuff, like when you're drawing, you know, it'll add a lot more detail to it than it might end up having when you're painting it. You know, like I generally am not going to get in there with paint and like get every hair in there, anything like that. I tend to treat the hair as a mass and leave it that way, which is just a personal preference, really. However, the drawing aspect does help me kind of think it through and maybe figure it out a bit. So this is something I might kind of shoot reference for, and it's not about the angle or even getting the lighting perfect, but I can at least like wrap a scarf around my own neck, take a picture, and then it'll give me an idea of like really how to paint it in a convincing way, you know. A scarf, or I mean any piece of cloth, if I decide what kind of material I want this to be, right? Whether it's cotton or linen or silk or whatever. I mean, I'm thinking probably some kind of a cotton, maybe wool. But they live in a more tropical kind of climate, right? Near the ocean. So I don't know how much use for wool they would have. But wool is very useful because even if you get wet, wool retains heat pretty well. So, it was pretty useful on the ocean. And so nothing says that they stick to the tropical climates when they're sailing. So I think they're explorers of a type. Trying to decide if I want some kind of a like a knot tied in. I kind of do. That's what I pictured this being, is just the end of something sort of tied up. Probably should have set this up so I could do this standing, because I've been sitting all day, but oh well. I was trying to figure out what it was that was bugging me about his posture. And I don't want him to feel like he has that shoulder protraction where the shoulder goes way forward. So I just need to open up. It's just kind of tweaking the angle that we're seeing the arm at a little bit. All. Also, I don't actually want like crazy definition in like every muscle, because, well, short of, it wouldn't make sense that he's like flexing everything, right? And while yes, you do get people that have a lot of definition, like I want him to have that slim, like very kind of athletic, almost like a runner, maybe not quite as slim as a runner, but that sort of vibe. But I definitely want him to have that lean kind of build, but I don't want it to just be like we can see every single muscle all the time. You know. Now sometimes I will put marks in there to define stuff, knowing that all that will get softened when I'm painting, right? There's kind of no way around it looking a bit more harsh in the drawing, because, well, you're just using lines. And in this case, those lines are like black or they're white, right? Should say they're either black or they're not there. Now I know they have these sashes that kind of help define their station within their society, but I haven't decided entirely what it is that defines it. If it's something on the sash itself, if it's something about the way that it's tied. Not entirely sure on that part just yet. Now, granted, you can have someone, say, like Bruce Lee, who, you know, there are times you could see, like, all his muscles, even when he wasn't doing anything. But that dude trained so much, and I don't really see these guys doing that kind of training. I mean, granted, like, sailing and sparring and things like that are hard work. So there's a certain amount of that kind of stuff that'll show no matter what. But, you know, plus they're elves, and we can say to a degree that they are some kind of superior specimens, but if we want. Which in this story they are, in certain regards. And I'll have to figure out the jewelry a bit too, at some point anyway, like, meaning, like, I'm not gonna detail the hell out of it, but I should decide on what kind of motifs they use. Though I do kind of imagine that in this world, you know, a lot of the fashion trends and things actually start with the elven cultures and then sort of permeate down, and either like things get traded, you know, so then you'll start to see people with sort of elvish jewelry, or you'll have like not as well made knockoffs, kind of, you know, sort of my thinking behind it. Sorry, I just had to. We've got some jobs going out to clients at work, so I just had to make sure. Gotta make sure that they don't need me for anything. That would suck if I was like, oh well, gotta cut the stream short because work. All right, I don't want this stuff to feel too round. And if anyone has any questions at any time, obviously, you can always just pop it in the chat. Could be art related, could be something totally different. We can talk about all kinds of stuff. I've been really trying to figure out, like, mostly just trying to balance everything, you know, because like I love streaming, but a lot of the stuff that I'm trying to work on outside of work, it's not, you know, I'm not going to stream writing because that would just be boring as shit. Especially when, you know, you don't really know what you're doing with it, and who the hell would want to watch that? And even if you do know what you're doing, it's probably even more boring because it would be, you'd be less impatient. And so, you know, there's been a lot of just trying to figure out, okay, well, what can I do art-wise that's, you know, still at least somewhat interesting, but also has some value toward what I'm trying to get done, because I have such limited time, you know, to get anything done outside of work in any kind of meaningful way, right? Because this stuff takes time, it takes effort, it takes a lot of work. Meaning, like, if you're developing your own stories, like, it's not a small thing, and if you want to get something done in a reasonable amount of time, you know, you gotta put the time in. And so, you know, it's been a little tricky kind of trying to find that balance, you know, still streaming, but trying to make it worthwhile for what I'm trying to accomplish. You know, so that's where I'm like, all right, well, maybe I can at least do some stuff of scenes that I have in my head, whether they make it into the final story or not, who knows? Way too far off to know that. But maybe they will, and if nothing else, they help me to kind of understand a setting or characters a little better. So, you know, that's valuable. And then if I can get, hopefully, some like actual paintings out of it, that could potentially have some value as well. Can't forget what kind of sailor wouldn't have rings. Actually, I'm sure a lot of sailors didn't have rings. Might have only been pirates that really wore a shit ton of rings. Who knows? We're gonna give them rings though. these days I'll go for something other than a braided leather handle, but not this day. I really should look up other methods of wrapping a hilt. Whatevs. And at some point also, because these guys will have like tattoos and stuff, so I need to figure out what sort of motifs they might use for tats. Because I don't know. I know what my tendencies are toward tattoo motifs, but I feel like I'll have to figure out something that is maybe a little more specific to them. Either that, or I just use my natural tendencies, and then have to figure out something totally different for another race or whatever. It's the only thing with starting to describe things visually is that then you actually have to know what the hell it really looks like. Whereas if you're writing it and you can just say like yeah, and they had all kinds of different swirls and whatever other kinds of marks for tattoos, and each one has a different meaning, but you don't actually have to specify it. Cheap tricks. Oh. I mean, it's not really cheap tricks, it's that it's that when you're writing, there's no guarantee that the reader is going to envision exactly what you envisioned as the writer, no matter how detailed you are in your descriptions, right? And that's just something you have to kind of come to terms with. And so then, knowing that, though, there's a certain amount of freedom, and that you're like, look, I could describe the hell out of this thing, but there's no guarantee that they're going to envision exactly what I'm envisioning, so maybe I don't have to describe the hell out of it, right? I had a writing teacher. I'd taken a narrative strategies class where this was back in illustration school, but basically they were just covering different methods of writing, from whether it was a play or poetry or prose, but the teacher in that class had said, he's like, I could write an entire page about what my house looks like, the exact shade of blue that the house is, and the white trim, and the exact type of flowers that are underneath the windows in the front yard, and the type of grass even, and get into how old the big oak tree is in the front, and and talk about exactly what kind of fence is in the front yard, and when you see the house, you'll know exactly which house it is, right? Or I can just write a couple lines and say it's a blue house with white trim with a big oak tree in the front yard. And when you see it, you'll know exactly which house it is. So, his point was simply that you have to pick your battles. Because some things are not important enough. Like, yes, you need them in there, but they don't need a ton of time spent on them, right? To get the story across, to get the narrative across. And it's that way in drawing too. It's one of the things I found is that writing and drawing or painting are pretty much the same in terms of the way that we approach them. George Martin could stand to learn a little bit of that, I think. We don't need pages on food that no one is ever going to eat. Especially when the food he described, honestly, didn't sound that good. I would have been way more into it if he was describing like some kind of recipe that he had perfected, and it turns out that it's like a really amazing dish or whatever. I felt like the food he described in the Game of Thrones books just did not sound appealing. Thus, kind of a waste of time. Gonna have this be almost like a split kind of a thing, but I think I'm gonna have it more of like a multi-wrap kind of a thing. But I think it's also gonna fade off a bit. I'm not gonna like describe them all the way to the bottom of the canvas. So actually needs to be a little bit bigger. do have to be careful that she doesn't. I want the features to be very different from her, which they are. Okay, good. Because I'm taking a little more from like Indian kind of culture. So I want her to have a bit of that look, you know, Indian subcontinent. Then these others I'm taking a little more from Middle Eastern, Persian kind of. So similar vibe, but a little different. I do want them to have a different kind of style of wrap, like a different methodology of wrapping. Nice thing is I don't actually have to know how to do the wrap myself. I can kind of just make something up, but I want it to, you know, still look like something. Like it could be something. So, Hey, Just John, how's it going? Doing all right. Struggling in the beginning. Trying to figure out the specifics of her pose, but we managed. It was only mildly painful. Think we're through the worst of it for now. How's your night going? If it's night where you are. I don't know. Here in LA, it's nighttime. Nice. I like that we can all kind of hang out and sketch. There's something nice and like unifying about that. I'll be very curious to see, like, when things do open up again, I'll be kind of curious to, or very curious to see how it affects the streaming landscape, I mean, I know that whenever I do end up having to go back into work, I don't know when that'll be, but hopefully not too soon, because I much prefer not commuting through LA traffic. But whenever we do, like, Twitch is actually locked down. We can't access it at work. It's just all this security stuff. NDAs and top secret projects and all that stuff. So, I mean, I think a lot more people are turning to streaming, not just streaming art, but also watching it, because it's like, what else can we do? We can't go out anywhere. We can't actually interact with anyone outside of our little social pod. So I feel like a lot more people are kind of turning to streaming in one way or another, whether it's for entertainment or interaction or just something. And then in a lot of artist cases, I mean, there are a lot of people that basically started streaming once the pandemic hit. I mean, that's when I started streaming again. I was streaming a bit back in, I think, 2017 and 2018 maybe. And then just work got a little too crazy for me to keep it up. But it was basically not having to commute, so not being in the car 2 hours a day, opened up a bit of time and energy for me to be able to get back to it. And I have to imagine, and so like, my buddy Arthur Kell, same thing, Yeah, fuck. I mean, I wish, it just like, right now I live 2 blocks from my girlfriend, so, if I moved closer to work, it would just be weird moving further away from her. It doesn't make sense to me. And not to mention being closer to work would mean basically I would have to live in Hollywood, and no way in hell. I do not like Hollywood. Not even a little bit. It's one of the reasons why, like, at work even, I don't really like to go out for a walk, even though I know it would be very healthy. But walking around Hollywood sucks. That place is gross. It's dirty. It's just not good. Hollywood kind of sucks. Yeah, I mean, it's sketchy. That part doesn't bug me in that, like, I don't walk around Hollywood like freaking out or anything. I'm not like afraid, even walking around Hollywood at night, it's just like, it's sketchy in that people there just kind of suck. I lived right near Hollywood for a little over a year, and it was like every other week the front of our building was getting tagged. I lived like basically right on the edge of Little Armenia, and there's like an Armenian gang around there called Armenian Power. Super original name. And so it's like every other week the front of our building is just getting tagged with this big, like, really shitty Armenian Power tag. Like, they couldn't even do cool, like, graffiti. It was just, like, super fast and shitty. And, it's just, like, stuff like that. And then, like, someone stole the registration sticker off my car because it was only street parking there. And that was lame. I ended up getting like 3 tickets for it because, like, I didn't know. How often do you check the back of your car to see if you still have your registration sticker? And so I got a ticket for it. I was like, what the hell? And then so I'd sent in the paperwork to get it renewed, and I didn't have anywhere else to park my car. And in that time, they gave me 2 more tickets. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And it was just like, so annoying. And then never mind the street parking. Like, holy crap, what a nightmare. So I'm never doing that again. Ever. Because, hell no. I mean, there were times I could get home from work in like 10 minutes, and then I would spend sometimes 25 more minutes just looking for a parking space. And it was so frustrating. So that's where I was like, dude, I'd rather move back to Pasadena and have my own parking, and I would still spend the same amount of time in the car. But at least I'd get to come home to a much nicer place. So everyone thought I was crazy for moving further away, but I was like, yeah. Oh, well, and then the other thing was that in the last 4 months or something that I was in that building, there were 3 bed bug outbreaks because the back apartment, apparently they had lived with bed bugs for years and never told anybody. So they never called an exterminator, they never told the building manager, nothing. And so I was just like, dude, I'm fucking done with this place. We did not have these problems in Pasadena. And if anyone has ever had to deal with bed bugs, you know how that can drive you out of a city. Fucking worst. And at the time, my brother and his girlfriend, they just moved from New York, they were living in that same building, which is why I ended up moving into that building. So it's like, oh hell yeah, man, live in the same building as my brother, like that'd be dope. And then as soon, like the first bed bug outbreak, they're like, we're moving, we're out of, because they had to deal with them in New York. So they knew, and at first I was like, what the hell, really? You're getting chased out of this building by little bed bugs? I get it. I totally get it. Bastards. Suck. Right? That's how I felt. I literally I got rid of half my shit. One, because I was moving to a bigger place, so I was like, you know what? I need a new bed anyway. Like, I don't need these bookshelves. I want different bookshelves. You know, because they love to just like nest in wood, like anything wooden. So it's like, these bookshelves are old and kind of shitty. I want new ones. Ugh. I'm gonna hate those things. So these are like metal plates, kind of. So this is just sort of just a reminder, you know, that they'll have some kind of etching and engraving in them. Of course, my typical sort of paisley kind of swirls. Go figure. But in this case, it actually kind of makes sense given the culture that I'm visually riffing off of. Yeah, they are kind of like some sort of a wrist wrap with these sort of metal gauntlets. I don't know if they're necessarily armor per se, because I feel like they would have to be on there a lot more secure to really be armor, but who knows, maybe they could be if I decided to really like belt them on, you know? Again, these are going to be kind of handmade earthen sort of things, so I don't want them to be perfectly round. Now, if they're clay, I mean, potentially, right? Just, it's something you could make on a potter's wheel or something, but I don't know. It's just a tavern, so I don't want it to be like, these are super nice goblets or anything like that. So actually, I feel like they should not have a taper. I feel like they should be a lot simpler. And I can, like, almost like a cheaper attempt at a really nice cup, right? But we'll see it a little more clearly in this one, where that stem is not going to be like a super delicate kind of a stem, right? It's not like a nice hand-blown glass kind of a thing. Right. Let's reverse engineer some of this. This is what gave me issues in the beginning, was specifically kind of the placement of her arms. So sometimes, actually often, what helps me is first figuring out this is where I want the hand to be, because we can place our hands in so many different positions. But depending on where the hand is, that determines then where the arm needs to go, because of the limited range of movement between the elbow and the shoulder, right? So, often what helps me figure that stuff out is just placing the hand where I want it, and then usually I can figure out the rest from there. Keep an eye on that, on where this which we also don't want this to be perfect, right? Because this would have been hand-hewn wood, you know, or stone, but again, like hand done. They didn't have crazy machines to do a perfect plane. So, gotta keep that stuff in mind. A little bit of credibility. I do want these, I always forget what they're called. You know, they're like, I think they kind of served as armor, right? The little, I think a lot of times the armor ones were a bit bigger. I'm sort of using it as like halfway between armor and decoration, I guess. But I'll make sure that those, you know, are pretty clearly different as well. Just anything I can do to sort of give them a sense of individuality. Probably shouldn't give them both the exact same belt either. Tying their belt the same way, because that would have been common, but belts are definitely something that they would have kind of an individual sort of take on, I think. Figure out the angle that I want. Just, she might just have rivets. And while they will both have wraps, like a kind of a sarong sort of thing, I think like his has more like angular kind of stuff going on. I think hers will be wrapped differently and maybe doesn't result in such an angular look. But then they have these like really baggy sailor pants underneath. Almost like fisherman pants, kind of. I feel like he's gonna need more. We're gonna need to get more folds and stuff in his to kind of give it the feeling that he can still move around in it, right? If it's too tightly wrapped, you don't have good range of movement, which does not make sense for sailors. They need that. They need to be able to move very freely and very quickly. So I'm gonna have to kind of think about that, but I think I'm gonna have to probably look up some reference for different ways of wrapping things in a loose form, in a loose manner. That, see, hers has more of this split opening, so you get the sense that she could move more. So maybe his, maybe we could do the same thing, it's just not curved like hers. I don't hate that. Simplify things. Which is not a bad thing. It's always a tendency to, you know, just like start drawing weapons in this like perfect kind of a profile, and it's rare that we actually see them in that perfect of a profile, unless they're just on display somewhere. So, and at some point I will need to also get into how their swords are different. Like his is maybe a little more somewhere between like a scimitar and a cutlass, and I think hers maybe will go with a little more of a saber kind of a thing, like a slimmer blade. But then we gotta have the, and it's a different form of fighting too. I mean, they're both kind of curved blades. But a saber, it doesn't have to be. I'm just thinking out loud because the curve of the blade and the curve of the handle change the style of fighting, right? That forward curve on a handle makes the fighting style more a little more pokey and less slicey. Oh, right on. I'm glad you're sketching along, HB. Have a little more of a leather wrap rather than a braided leather. And let's make sure that this blade is actually going right direction. I was just looking, 'cause I don't know how curved I want to make the blade. And they can go kind of either way. You know, with a saber, they can go, like, some of them will get really curved, and some of them actually stay pretty straight. So I think I still want a bit of a curve. Some of this stuff I'll need to make the effort to design a little more. You want to because if I'm thinking about putting this on a 16 by 20 canvas, I actually want some breathing room for them. I don't want everything going right to the edges. If I have anything going to the edge, I want it to be very conscious. So I might even, first of all, let's see. I don't think this has anything we need to worry about right now. So let's do. Actually, I was gonna move them a little further apart, but I don't think I will. That's fine. We don't have to. Some accents in there. I will be painting this, not tonight, but we'll get into the. What I'll probably do is off stream. I'm gonna just do a little bit of research and just see if there's anything I want to really like reference a bit more. I'm not sure, and sometimes it's hard to know without doing a bit of research and just seeing what you come up with, if there's something that's more interesting. And then Thursday, I will hopefully then we'll start painting it up. But I'll do that on stream. I think it'll be a lot of fun playing with some kind of painterly sort of marks and stuff. Really taking into account how I might approach it with oils, right? So I do want some kind of a we might have the bar. And I imagine I'll mess with this in the painting a bit more, but I actually wouldn't mind the bar almost like bisecting the canvas just as a graphic element, you know? I think it could be kind of fun. And we did kind of say that our light is coming from the sort of upper right somewhere. So that'll give us kind of a fun graphic to play with here, right? Which will sort of tell us how deep that bar is too. And the way that this will describe whatever kind of surface it's on, whether it's a really rough surface or, you know, something else. So there's a lot of potential for the just the design within the lighting here. I think could be really cool and fun to play with, and then figuring out sort of what the window's about. I don't want the window to like encompass them equally, so I kind of like this idea that maybe the window is sort of kind of off to one side more. If it's that sort of lintel type of construction, maybe, right? What's it called? Actually, maybe we'll push that a little more. So this kind of stuff, it's funny. So I don't really need to, I don't feel the need to describe this in as much detail in the drawing, because this is something that I actually feel is maybe a little easier to explore in the painting. But I do want at least some placeholders, you know, to just remind me what I'm thinking of. I'll probably have some kind of brackets, you know, some kind of support. And we'll need to get a little bit of perspective here, right? Like, I'm fine if we're looking basically edge on at the bar. That's cool, but we're still gonna have some kind of convergence, right? So we'll see if we're looking edge on at the bar, then we have to be seeing the bottom of this a bit. I don't want everything to be like shot with a super long lens or anything. Probably wouldn't see as much on that one. And so if we do have kind of some sort of brackets or supports of some kind. Actually, what it would probably be is literally just a square thing, or even round pegs coming out supporting it. But I'll have to think through that a little bit more. But they don't have to be the same length as the bar, so you can have them, we will have a bit of the cast shadow on them too. But then that means I need to take that into account somewhere. What are they looking at? That's a good question. Who knows if there's some kind of commotion down the street that's catching their attention, and they're like, what the hell's going on? And then maybe like some real shit starts to happen. I don't know. I'm more concerned with it, making people ask that question rather than feeling the need to answer it myself. I'm not that far into this story yet, so. And then in the painting, I'll be able to just indicate people back there, which will be fun because that'll be an interior environment, much different lighting. I will keep it pretty simple, but and indicated, but I think that'll still be fun. Yeah. I feel like that's pretty good progress for, about 3 hours of work. There will be like textiles and, patterns on their clothing, but there's no need for me to draw that. That's much easier to do in the painting phase. So I'm not going to worry about that right now. But that'll also help differentiate them a bit. I do kind of like the idea of them having a little more of a uniform, so possibly something will be the same color, and it might be the sash that's draped over their chest and the one around their waist, I think maybe will be the same colors. To show maybe that they don't have to be military, but maybe the whole crew on whatever ship they're on, I think the wraps on their head will be different colors, but I think maybe the neck, shoulder, and waist sashes will be kind of the same color. Maybe. We'll see. We'll figure it out. But I think that's a problem for next time. For now, let's look at our at our struggle. We don't have to dwell on this too much, but it was a bit of a... He was much easier. She was just like, do we want to go have her looking that way? Which I still like, but it just pushed them apart too much, which is what I didn't like about it. Right? I wanted their bodies to at least be facing each other to give them that interaction. And I couldn't have her head like that with her body turned toward him. So we didn't. The loose doodle. Oh, that damn arm. What a pain in the ass you were. And then finally I was like, screw it. Doing that. And then noodly doodly lines. Yeah, they're coming along. It'll be a fun one to paint up, both digitally and traditional, I think. Because I have more kind of subdued, muted tones. I don't want to go like... That would be funny, Sarah, if Sylvia was in here, but she's not a big blonde elf. She's a little blonde elf that beats up big orcs. That would be pretty funny. Except that I think they're on the outside, so she'd be beating him up on the inside past that window. Yeah, man, that time-lapse replay Just John is super handy, I have to say. It would be cool in gouache. I love oils. I love working on linen. And I just have not been doing enough oils. I just really, really want to get back to them. So I'm just like, okay, figuring out a piece that I can paint. With him, though, I want to... They're sea elves, right? Essentially, that's until I actually figure out a name for them. I'm calling them sea elves. So I kind of imagine they might have a little bit of that swimmer, build a little bit, maybe a little broader. We can't quite see how broad her shoulders are from this angle, but right. I just feel like they're a culture that spends a lot of time on the water and in the water, so we're and it's funny because I love gouache, but I don't actually like painting this kind of stuff up in gouache. I think I get a little too impatient. Even though gouache is super fast when you get used to it. I don't know. I love oils. Love oils. I like to mix gouache with watercolor, so it tends to have a very different look. I don't go as opaque with gouache as some people. I don't think I go as opaque generally as you're meant to with gouache. Mostly because I didn't do any kind of formal training with gouache, whereas I took watercolor classes, I took oil painting classes, lots of those. But gouache, I feel like it was getting kind of phased out in so many ways, which is too bad because like it could still be so useful for illustration because it is so fast. You know, sometimes I wish I had learned a bit more about it, or that I could spend more time with it now. But I don't have that kind of time to get the hang of it in the right way. Okay, I think we're gonna call this one for tonight. I'm gonna try and push it forward a little bit between now and Thursday, so that we can just start like painting it up on Thursday. It'll be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So I think that's it for tonight. I don't really think we're gonna raid. I imagine Autumn is about to bail, but yeah, we can raid Autumn. Why not? We're gonna raid Autumn. YouTubers, we're gonna jet. Thank you so much for hopping on. Sarah, I hope you didn't just pop in because that would suck, but super glad you stopped by anyway. And yeah, we're gonna raid. All right. Peace out, everybody. And Twitch, we are raiding right about now.